You're listening to Warrior Talk with Heather Thomas Van Daren and Brant Fricker. Get inspired. Be empowered. Warrior Talk.
Welcome, everybody, to Warrior Talk. Get inspired. Be empowered. And once again, we are so excited to be with y'all this morning. It's an awesome day. It's a good day to be alive.
I'm so excited.
And go ahead. It's all right.
I just can't hide it. I'm about to, lose control, and I think I like it. Remember that song from the 80s?
And I think y'all already have figured out that since we're both musicians, everything's a song.
Yeah, it is. It is.
So a couple of weeks ago, we covered a topic called battleship or cruise ship. Y'all can still go back and catch that for another few weeks.
Good show.
And then we have to upload it other places because Facebook only lets us do 30 days now.
Yeah.
So, do you have SDD? Brant, what in the world is that?
Well, we made it up, of course. SDD, spiritual deficit disorder.
I tell you what, our Warrior Talk study days are so much fun, y'all.
Uh-huh.
You never know what we're going to come up with, but absolutely, it's a real thing, Brad. It needs to be talked about.
Well, it does, because right now, and there's two extremes of SDD, spiritual deficit disorder. We can be so in the world that we're caught up in this and distracted like the enemy wants us to be, and we don't even think about God till it's time to eat or go to bed. But the other extreme is to be in a headspace where you're so spiritual you think that you're no earthly good. You're not present in this world. You're not the agent of change that we're called to be, the warrior that we're called to be in this world. Either way, you can have spiritual deficit disorder, because religiosity is not spirituality. Religiosity
That's the truth.
is not spirituality. That I burned my mouth on that one. That's hot out of the oven, Heather. But it's true though. Religiosity is not spirituality. I personally know people that are so religious they have no morality. They have no moral compass. They have no relationship with God. Yet in their minds, they're justified because of their religiosity. But they have also a spiritual deficit disorder. So we want to have one foot on the earth and one foot in heaven. The most realistic people on the face of the earth are believers in Jesus. And so we can operate as he is, so are we in the world. So STD deficit.
Yeah. You know what I just thought about while you were talking is very true. We need to live a balanced life, but we always need to stay plugged into the source. And as a follower of Christ, we don't really operate here if we're functioning properly. So we have to make a concerted effort to be the light. We have to make a concerted effort to be, I love calling it Jesus with skin on, because that's what we are. Because without us being the light in the world, they're going to be cloaked in darkness. And I'm not talking about, oh, sweet little Heather, she's doing such a good job. I'm talking about all of us, the family of God. Religiosity, like you said, Brett, is no good, because you know why? Religiosity keeps you so hung up on rules and regulations that you're really not focusing on anybody but yourself.
That's right.
And trying to point your finger at everyone else. That's how you spend your days. That's how you spend your time. We've all had a touch of religiosity in our lives.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes it takes God just smacking you upside the head and going, what are you thinking?
He's had to do that with me a lot.
Me too.
Yeah.
But that is definitely spiritual deficit disorder. It's a disorder, which means it's not right.
That's right. But what is right is a right standing with God. That's what righteousness means. Now,
Hmm.
self-righteousness, that's different. I'm better than you, or I give more, or I go to these things more, or I do these things. You know what? God said to the prophets, you honor me with your lips, but your hearts are far from me. But a right standing with God. Oh man, to stop the world and say, you know what? I move aside all this craziness, all this confusion. I know that God is real. I believe that Jesus has redeemed me. He's my only hope. And I don't have to be religious. I can be real and be humble to know that at my very best is my very best ends here, and His grace doesn't even begin, or his
Mm.
even his righteousness over here. There's a deficit anyway, but Jesus bridges that gap, and but for the grace of God go I. So it's always good to reevaluate, and as we say, we want to have a right standing with God. I'd rather be judged by myself right now than be judged by Him. I know that I'll have to give an account for all the careless words I've said. So many careless words, Heather. I've served Him most of my life, but I've said so many careless words. That's something that I'm working on too. Even if I'm passionate or I believe that I'm fighting the cause, we all need to work on things. I know that I'm working on that right now as well. So when we stop the world and do that, we can reset and say, Lord, what's the STD in my life? And can Jesus, can you fill that deficit for me? And we can do that when we make sure that there are no other gods but Him.
Mm. That's right. I mean, that's one of the most important things. As a matter of fact, it was one of the very first things that God commanded in Exodus. And you know, how many gods do we have to put in front of Him?
Right.
Take your pick. Take your pick. There are so many things. They can be people, they can be things, they can be places. It doesn't matter. There are so many things that we can put in front of Him, and it's a slippery slope, guys. Um, the deficit happens to affect us as well as other people. You know, those that are around us are affected when we have spiritual deficit disorder because we're not being all that we are called to be. We may even miss an opportunity to lead somebody to the Lord or just simply invite them to church or whatever, because at that moment we're experiencing a deficit.
Mhm.
And it can be tragic. It can cause all kinds of effects, and people don't stop to think about that. We need to stay plugged in all the time. We need to take a look inside. You guys, what is your passion? What is it that draws you?
Mhm.
What is it that you love? That is how we gauge our right standing with Christ,
Mhm.
is what's driving us at that moment. Are we with Him or are we apart from Him?
Mhm.
It can happen in an instant.
Mhm.
Don't you agree with that, Brant?
I do, and that's why for me it's important when I wake up. What am I thinking about? Some,
Yeah.
some of us need to re-gauge what we're thinking about when we wake up.
Yeah.
Uh,
Hmm.
but when I start out the morning with gratefulness, God, thank you. You've given me another day. Some people
Yeah.
didn't wake up today, but you gave me another day. What do you want to do? People find out how important things really are, and they're not when they're dying. All of a sudden,
Mm.
those extra hours at work don't matter. All of a sudden, that bank balance doesn't matter, or trying to get to a certain level.
Yeah.
What matters is your health, your life, your spiritual health, having a right standing with each other. What would happen if you lived like that all the time? I had to make a change from some ministry involvement that was very clear that it was headed in the wrong direction,
Yeah.
and I didn't realize it until it hit me in the face. And and I left it. It was a lot of financial provision too. But it's so interesting that when I saw the spiritual deficit in which things were operating, and I made a decision, and I knew the season was over, that living so happily now and focusing on the right things first and loving people. I've always loved people, but I've never enjoyed them the way I am now. It's interesting what happens. I found out that I was spending more money running and going, trying to make something happen that I really believed in versus,
Right.
you know, we've said on the show, the enemy of the best is the good. There's a lot of good things you can do, folks. But what are the best things? Well, the best thing you can do is to make sure that you're right with God. And so that's important to not be conformed to the pattern of this world, but to be transformed by the renewing of our mind, like Romans 12:1 and 2. And the pattern of this world is, what are you driving? But the pattern of God's kingdom is, what's driving you.
That's good.
And let me tell you something. I love fast cars and I love nice cars, but they all break down the same, folks. I need to focus. I was underneath an SUV yesterday, you know, preparing a vehicle for repair, and I wasn't causing the need for repair, but I was removing a panel, and you know, on the mountaintop here, and preparing a vehicle. Well, vehicles seem to know when you're paying them off. They tend to break down the month you're paying them off. We were paying it off this month.
Right.
Hopefully we can get by a little longer, but you know what though? The world worries about what you're driving, and God is concerned with what's driving you. So
Mm.
concern yourself with what's driving you, and that means, you know, um, having an appetite to please God. You know, there's some signs. You may have signs of of SDD, spiritual deficit disorder. And a good example is maybe when you go to the doctor. What do you think, Heather?
Yeah. I heard that a long time ago. When you go to the doctor, um, they're there to determine, what's going on and give a diagnosis. Well, one of the things that they ask you is almost every time, how's your appetite? Because if you have an appetite, usually you're going to be healthy and happy. But if you don't have an appetite, either you're going to be depressed, you're not going to feel good, something's going on in your body So here's the deal. What kind of appetite do you guys have?
Hmm.
Do you have an appetite for the Lord and the things of the Lord? That was such a great analogy. It just hit me.
That's good.
Um, if you have no appetite, you're not going to go after him. You're not going to seek him. You're not going to run to him because you have no desire.
Hmm.
And that is a definite sign of SDD.
It is, and that's really why we should fast, not for a
Mhm.
religious reason, but number one, it's very healthy for you,
It is.
because your body, guys that are over 50, like me, it replenishes your cells. It releases T levels, higher T levels. It does a lot for you, but it also gives you a razor sharp focus. And you know, the enemy has done a good job, even removing verses from certain translations of the Bible of saying when you fast, or this kind of spirit only comes out through prayer and fasting. Conveniently, the same publishers who published the Satanic Bible published one of our versions of the Bible, and they've removed that. Why? Because when you say to God, I love hamburgers, but I love you more. Well, there's a physical benefit to that. There's a spiritual benefit to that. People in other countries that don't even follow our God also live longer because they fast too. And I think I'm due for that too. Uh,
Mm.
sometimes that's a food fast. Sometimes that's fasting from media. Sometimes that's fasting from something you really love to do, but you're proving a point. God, I love you more. Not for the opinions of, Jesus talked about those who disfigure their faces to show the world they're fasting. You're not being blessed for that.
Mm-mm.
but what's between you and God? What is your appetite? Well, you know what? I'm due for another one. I think I will. And that is, I want you. I want you more than anybody. And when I want you, God, more than anybody, then everything else falls in my lap. And it does,
Mhm.
and it has, Heather. I can't even take, I don't even have the time or whatever to even step through the open doors for me because I don't want to get into the habit of go, 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 go again where
Right.
my time with him, and don't get me wrong, I'm not some sage on a hill that's so spiritual. No, I'm just like anybody else, but it's always good to reset. But what's my appetite? What's driving me instead of what am I driving? What am I craving? Jesus said, "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness." Blessed.
Hmm.
Well,
That's right.
that word's a Greek word for blessed. It's makarios. It means happy. Happy are those who
Hmm.
hunger and thirst for righteousness. And you'll have a less of a chance of struggling with SDD, spiritual deficit disorder.
Well, and you think about that really because how much do we love God? Not just being with him and allowing him to order our steps, Brant. That's what I thought of when you were talking about the open doors and not running through every one of them.
Right.
It's because you're letting him order your steps. I mean, open doors can also come from the enemy,
Mhm.
and you definitely have to have discernment. But one of the things that God loves for us to crave is not a chocolate candy bar, which I do on occasion,
Oh yeah.
but it's him. He wants us to crave
Mhm.
him. So if we have SDD, how do we know that we might be lacking that craving in Him? Okay, maybe we're not in His Word like we should be. Maybe we don't even care if we are reading His Word. Maybe we don't really dig deep into a scripture that we're reading because we don't have time or we're not really interested. The thing about it is, he wants us to crave him in such a way that we have a knowledge deficit, that we
Mhm.
can't get enough of his word. We can't get enough of the prayer time. That is a true relationship with him. When you want to get to know somebody, that's what you do. You study them,
Mhm.
you crave information about them. And I just wanted to share something, Brent, because
Okay.
my husband, one of the things that I loved so much
Mhm.
about my husband was when we first got married, he would study me and he would watch me. He wanted to learn the things that I liked, the things that I didn't like, what made me tick, what made me happy, what
Mhm.
brought joy to my face. He would study those things so that he could love me the way that I needed to be loved.
Mhm.
Well, that is a sign that you really are attached to someone and that you've got a good relationship going. And I believe that that's what we need to have with God. What say you, Brent?
Well, we need to have that, and we need to revisit that. We need to stay there. When you're dating, you do a lot of things in the beginning that if you're not careful, you don't do anymore after you're married. And our culture lends itself where, okay, well, it's over once you're married. No, no, the adventure just begins.
Yeah.
We begin to take people and things for granted like we do
Right.
God. That provides
Mm-hmm.
that. But the church of Ephesus, they learned the hard way. Jesus said to the church of Ephesus in Revelation, "You're doing everything right. You're doing all this good stuff, but there's one
Exactly.
this one thing I hold against you. You forgot your first love. Look
Yeah.
at the height at which you've fallen,
Mm.
and do the
Yeah.
things you did at first. Guys, you know this. When you did the things you did at first, isn't it interesting how things are renewed. Well,
Mhm.
so we have to do the things we did at first. When you first got saved, oh man, the sky was bluer, the grass was greener, everything was we felt clean.
Yeah.
And of course, like Jesus talked about the seed, the falls on the ground, the enemy sweeps in to steal that joy with the cares of this world. And so we have to go back and do the things we did at first, like any good relationship. Don't wait until Valentine's Day to go back there. Don't wait until Mother's Day, guys, to go back there, or the birthday or whatever. Why don't you just stay there? Why don't you make it a part of your discipline to stay there? And the
Mm.
same thing goes with God. Walk it,
Right.
stay there, stay there.
Yeah.
I'm crazy about my wife. Anybody that knows me, they know that I am absolutely crazy about her. I really am. And what people see in public is what we are. That's who we are. And it's not because everything's so new all the time. It's because we stay there. No, I mean, there's life, there's pressures, there's cares of the world, there's all those things, but we choose to stay there, and we can do the same
Mm.
with the Lord, because you know what? His mercies are new every morning, and in your relationships, you know what? That woman you're married to, guys, or that man you're married to, they're changing. You may not think I already got them figured out. No, by the time you think you have her figured out, she's changed. All right, and there's a new person that's evolving, right? Or him. These people are beginning to return from which they came. Okay, they're learning who they are, and hopefully they're learning who they are in the Lord. So we have to go back and do the things we did at first. That's the doctor's orders, and that means sometimes decreasing your activity. Activity is not productivity. I could be busy
Mm.
doing nothing all day long, but to cure your SDD, spiritual deficit disorder, you can fix it, just like you can
Yeah.
fix a relationship a whole lot quicker when you stop the world and do the things you did at first. Even the heathens say, you want to be happy? Act happy. Well, that sounds
Mm.
disingenuous. Well, it may sound that way, but act happy and your body will respond. When you say, I'm so sick of this, I'm so tired of this, I hate this, you're telling 7 trillion
Yeah.
cells what to feel. So, you know what? The joy of the Lord is my strength. My body is healthy. My cells are filled with light. You know, I've never seen the righteous forsaken or his seed begging for bread. You know, I'm going to do this thing, Lord. I want you in my life. Be the Lord of my life. And you speak that, your body, 7 trillion cells will fall into line. And that's when you'll learn a true hunger for righteousness, like Jesus talked about,
Mm.
and getting that zeal back.
Yeah.
There was a cult in the Church of Ephesus, emperor worship. There was all kinds of bad things going on, worse than what we're seeing now, believe it or not. Although
Yes.
there's more martyrs in modern times than there ever has been in the world. But all that to say is, we have to return to our zeal for the Lord and learn that true hunger for righteousness. It will return when we do it, I believe.
And zeal can also be interchanged with the word passion, fervor, um, love, real love, active love, love in action, and so we need to be about the Lord's business, and we need to be actively seeking what he would have for us. And here's another thing too, Brett. You and I talked last Monday during our study time
Mhm.
was, what about salvation? Are you just going through the motions, guys? Maybe that's why you have SDD. Maybe because you
Yeah.
you you haven't actually plugged in to the God of all creation, and you haven't asked Jesus uh, to be your Savior and allow Him to lead you. And you said, I just would hate to die in a state of SDD. Explain what you mean by that, Brad.
Well, I mean, my gosh, the fact that Jesus said that on that day, there will be some who said, we cast out demons in your name. We prophesied in your name. We healed the sick in your name. And he said, get away from me. I never knew you. An old term that rabbis would use when a student that they had chosen to mentor lived contrary to the teachings of the Lord. And so I don't want to die in a state of not knowing him. I
Yeah.
don't want to be so busy doing the things that I really want to know him. You know what's interesting though is when you put aside your spiritual deficit disorder and you say, I want to know you. I want to love you more than anything. Then all the things we used to labor in almost become effortless because we're working out of the overflow.
Mm,
Instead of
yeah.
trying to fill all these buckets and fill all these and we're the fountain and we're empty and we got to get recharged again. It's a whole difference when you are overflowing with the
Yeah.
living waters of the living God and you're filling those buckets and cups effortlessly because you're not operating out of yourself. You're not operating out of your flesh. You're not operating out of greed. You're not operating out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. You're operating out of His overflow. And
Mm,
and I don't want to die in a state of exhaustion, trying to be or do or I have no drama in my life. I have no drama in my life, and I refuse it. I walk away from it now. I'm too old to do that. And,
I
and,
get
and I'm
that.
too old to live in spiritual deficit disorder. I really want to know God because I'm not promised tomorrow. I'm not even promised today, but I want to know
Yeah.
Him that in that split second where your heart can stop beating, that we take it
Yeah.
for granted. I want to know Him and I
Hmm.
want Him to remember me. I don't care if anybody ever remembers me. People, and by the way, folks, if you live your life for other people, you can die today and they will forget you tomorrow, but He won't forget you. I want to know
Never.
Him.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, guys, take it from the doctor. STD is something you don't want to have. Get rid of it. Spiritual deficit disorder can be cured, and the cure is Jesus Christ.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
So we love you.
Absolutely.
Another great warrior talk, Heather.
Yes. We'll see you next week, guys.
Bless you.